Hello everyone and welcome back to Moneycurious. So today we're talking about why I decided to invest in Coca-Cola. Where I started was looking at the history of Coca-Cola. Number one, everybody knows about the brand Coca-Cola. One stat that I found out was that 3% of the world's drinks sold are Coca-Cola owned. So that's as if, say you had 100 people walking down the street drinking drinks, canned drinks, whatever, 3 of them would be a Coca-Cola brand. So that's quite a widespread brand. So, it's well established, and it's been well established over years and years, decades and decades. So that gave me a little bit of trust in the company from the get-go. So Coca-Cola isn't just Coca-Cola as we know it. They have acquired multiple brands. I'm just showing here some of the brands that they own. So you might have known that they own things like Dr. Pepper and Fanta. They're also owners of Monster energy drinks, Minute Maid orange juice, bottled water, and even innocent smoothies. So they've kind of branched out to quite a lot of things. Also, they own some sort of coffee brands and stuff. Costa Coffee, I believe, as well now. So Coca-Cola in the last few years has been transitioning its business model by sort of selling some of its bottled operations affiliates. So they're trying to refranchise part of its operations and trying to move more towards a marketer of beverages rather than like a fully fledged beverage manufacturer. In March, Coca-Cola reported an operating margin of nearly 29%. Now, you won't really find this across any large cap companies that they'll be providing an operating profitability of that level. So this kind of stood out to me as another factor to take into consideration as a pro for investing in Coca-Cola. I also looked at the history of Coca-Cola in regards to how it fared in recessions. The good thing of Coca-Cola is that often in recessions, consumers may tend to cut down, obviously, on certain items, but these are usually sort of like more big ticket items that aren't really that important. So they may reduce their spending in food and beverages a little, but often you can even find during recession periods that this kind of like bottled beverages would go up. So that was another thing which made me think that at least this type of company was something that could fare well during a recession. So what we have seen recently, obviously more in March than April, was quite a huge drop in the share price of Coca-Cola. So this is really why I was looking at it at all, because it's quite rare that you'd see such a huge drop in Coca-Cola or any sort of big company like this. And I was having a think about why I thought the share price might have gone down quite as much as it did. And really, it's not because people aren't buying Coca-Cola products. They are probably still going out to supermarkets and buying them there and things like that, and like petrol stations. But because of the coronavirus pandemic, they're probably losing their sales from places like restaurants. So like McDonald's, for example, sells Coca-Cola and other fizzy drink brands, but also I've seen Minute Maid being sold at McDonald's also. And then things like cinemas, they sell a lot of fizzy drinks and other drinks that Coca-Cola owns, and things like sporting events as well. So if we look at that side of the business, that's quite a lot of revenue lost from that. But it doesn't mean that in the future, once the pandemic is all over, that those things will be up and running again. So we can sort of hope for a share price increase from that side of the business as well. So now that China has sort of come out of its lockdown and is starting to kind of resume their life, they're back to normal. It will be interesting to see, now that I've invested in Coca-Cola, the consumption trends within China. The Asian Pacific region for Coca-Cola's revenue is about 15%. Once we sort of see countries in this region start to go back to normal, I think that should have quite a good and big impact on Coca-Cola's share price. It'll be definitely interesting to see that and whether that hypothesis is true, because if it is true and that looks like what is happening, then we can be fairly certain that that will happen in other regions as well, and therefore buying at this point in time or before in March would have been a good investment to make. Something that's quite interesting about Coca-Cola is they're not restructuring their employee, their workforce during this pandemic. So it could be seen as quite a bad thing in a way, because they're still continuing to pay some of their workers because they're quoted as wanting to hold on to their skilled workers. So there could be a lot of people right now that are unable to work because of the pandemic, yet they're still getting paid. So that's going to be taking money off Coca-Cola's top line. But in the long term, I kind of see this as probably a good thing. I mean, they're staying loyal to their employees, and it also means that when they get back up and running, for example, like in China right now, then hopefully they've still got those employees there, healthy, well, and with their expertise to start the production line and marketing and distribution of Coca-Cola products again. So I think that could pan out well for Coca-Cola. Now, just to give you an idea of how far the drop was in March of this year, I've put a red line here on the chart. So this is the maximum chart. So it's going all the way back to like beyond 1992. And at the very bottom of the dip, it was the same price that we saw in the last quarter of 2012. So that's quite, that's taken about 8 years for the price to get up to as high as it was. So that's rather a huge drop that has been made there. So lastly, something that's really key with Coca-Cola is the dividend it provides. Now, I'm not going to say that it provides a really high dividend, because it doesn't. But during the crash in the market, we saw the dividend go up to almost an unprecedented level of 4%. So that would be a good reason to buy this stock also, because not only are you investing in hoping that it will grow on the long term into the future, but we're also in the meantime going to be getting a sort of 3.5-ish to 4% dividend. Coca-Cola also boasts the fact that its dividend has grown for 57 years. That's a really, really impressive stat. Another thing to take into account is that the dividend that Coca-Cola is providing is really well covered by their earnings. So they're not going to be dipping into any debt in order to pay their shareholders. This is something that's sustainable for Coca-Cola to provide. Okay guys, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to my reasons for investing in Coca-Cola. To anyone out there who's still thinking about doing this, I would say the markets are changing daily, and the markets have gone up a little bit now. So go back, have a look at Coca-Cola for yourself, see what price you might be able to get in at. I'm predicting that it will slowly start going up, and definitely in the long term, for the 3 to 5 to 10 year outlook, I think it's still potentially a good buy.